Hello YouTube, this is Mr. Sasuke Dragon, and as promised, I will show you the Dino build I took to the WCQ. Now, 3 rescue rabbits, hence the fact the name Dino Rabbit. Okay, if you don't know what this card does by now, then I'll explain it. First of all, you banish it by activating its effect. Then you summon 2 vanilla monsters and you overlay with them into you can go into a Lugia, you can go into a Darker, or you can go into a Utopia. Or if you go for the rank 3s, you can go into something like Leviair, the Sea Dragon, number 17 Leviathan Dragon, Miserythim. You know, it depending on what vanilla you go for. But this is one of the engine of the deck. Then you have 3 Sabersaurus. 3 is absolutely paramount, otherwise Rescue Rabbit doesn't work as much. Now, of course, if you open up in your opening hand with a Sabersaurus, it's not bad. It is not bad at all because if you've got Thunder King on the field with a 1/9 as well, you can punch over that and suicide because then you don't have to worry about that. Then you can go off your pot of dualities and other searchable cards, and you don't have to worry about that pesky Thunder King. Or if you go to special summon, you don't have to worry about that Thunder King being attributed off. So these 1/9 beaters do help out. Then of course we run the Hippopotamus, as everyone calls it, the Cabazals. This card's 1/7 of course, can't really run over much, but it's good for Xing into Lugia and Darker, or of course, as I said, going into a number 39 Utopia. Then we come to the second engine of the deck, the sexy bitch herself, Tour Guide of the Underworld. This card makes so many different plays. You summon Tour Guide, special summon another level 3 fiend, either it being Sangan, the Tour Bus, or another Tour Guide itself. You can go to number 17 Leviathan Dragon, you can go to Leviair the Sea Dragon, you can go to Miserythim, any type of rank 3 monster you can go into. I mostly used it to go into number 17 Leviathan Dragon, and of course Leviair the Sea Dragon, because of its remove from play ability. So this really did come in handy. Then of course we had 2 effect failures. I did randomly decide to go for 3 when I was deck testing, but then I decided not to because running 3 was good, but it clogged because against heroes it was boss, against Chaos Dragons it was boss, against Insectors it was boss, but against any other deck that really didn't need effects going off, it was annoying because you always drew the card when you didn't need it. I didn't really need it to go into synchros because I don't run any synchros, and when I did use it, it just really helped out. Against Insector player, they were screwed because Dragonfly couldn't activate. When I went against the Chaos Dragon player, he couldn't activate RDMD's effect, so he was pushed back a turn. So Effect Greta did put in some hard work. I did start in the third one a few times, especially against the wind-up player. He really didn't like it when I started negating his wind-up carriers in Mighty. So it really put in a lot of hard work and it was brilliant. Now we come on to my tech choices. Snowman Eater. Now a lot of people were saying at the competition, I know what you're running a Snowman Eater. I was like, fine. A few other people thought I was running Marshmallow, which really did do them over when they were being quite cocky, saying, yeah, I took your monster. Fine, so it's face down, they go flip. Oh, it's Snowman Eater. You're dead. Oh, crap. Yep, you destroyed my monster, but I'm taking yours with it. A few times people thought it was a Sangan, so just like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll attack with this monster. And it really did annoy him. But this card really put in so much work, and it was brilliant. I didn't really have to do much. I just set this and carry on. A lot of the times people thought it was a bluff, but when they ran into it, they were sadly mistaken. And of course we go on to some other titles. Gauze. Gauze was not too bad. I didn't really leave much back row face down because most of the back row was chainable, so Gauze was always live. It was never dead, so it really helped out a lot, especially with the token. They didn't really know what to do with, like, sometimes with a 3000 beats to go with a token, 28. I think once I had about 1/9. It was not too bad, the token, but the token really did put in hard work, and so did Gauze. BLS. BLS is just boss regardless. It is putting so much work against the Insector player. I banished his Dragonfly. He hated that. He couldn't do any exceeds at all. He really got annoyed. That Dragonfly was his final play. I used it a few times against the hero player. I don't think I brought out any time after that. I think when I went against the wind-up player, he started going off with the loop the second time, and I just BLS got dropped into the graveyard, which annoyed me. But this card put in so much work. So if you've got a BLS, guys out there, make sure you're running it in a deck, because it does help. Then of course, toolbars. Scapegoat user come up with this idea, and he says to me, you should run toolbars in your deck. I was like, toolbars, it's a scrubby card, it does not work, it's flawed, it's crap. So I tested it, and I was proven wrong. I put my hands up, Scapegoat user this time was absolutely right, and it does work. It helped out so many times when I was bringing out number 17 Leviathan Dragon or my Levier. You ditch the tool guide first, then the second time you ditch the toolbars. Then you put the Sangan back in the deck or the tool guide. And I tell you, that really did help. Sometimes I had a tool guide in hand but had no targets. And when I had tool bus on the field as an underlay unit, detach that, go to the graveyard, smack, yes, I can do it. Bring this forth, then put in tool guide, some tool guide, do this, do that, and go off again. It really did so much work. And of course, Sangan. Sangan, the furry testicle. This was just brilliant. It helped out so many times. Sometimes I opened up with this card and had no Rescue Rabbit, so I'd set this in defense, then I'll get Rescue Rabbit to hand, and then go off after that. So that's the monster lineup. Now I go on to the spells. Since of course this is a triple MST format, you run triple MST. This card was so good because it's so easily chainable. You set it, your opponent goes MST, fine, I chained my MST to your via face down. Sometimes if you had this card in hand, it worked. It got rid of things like Skill Drain, Bottomless Trap Holes, Fiendish Chains, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, Light Imprisoning Mirror. It got rid of so many annoying back row cards, even a Torrential. I think once I top decked MST and took out back row and it was a Mirror Force. The opponent was not happy because that was his final play. But you have to run triple MST. 2 Pot of Duality. I did run 3 Pot of Dualities, but of course it clogged the deck. I drew like 2 Pot of Dualities, 1 Pot of Duality, or none at all, and then sometimes I activate Pot of Dualities, Pot of Duality, Pot of Duality, and another card. And it was like, why? I thought I'll put it down to 2. Sometimes I opened up Pot of Duality, which did help. Sometimes I was on a normal monster and activate Pot of Duality to get an extra draw. Sometimes I was an extra piece of back row that could help me. So an MST, a Bottomless, a Torrential, or a Mirror Force, and a Compulse. So those cards really did help, so I could chain some of those cards and go off. So running these at 2 was absolutely paramount. Forbidden Lance. Now of course I said I was doing my Road to the WCQ video, I wouldn't run Forbidden Lance because of the priority ruling, because it was stupid, I didn't need to. When priority went, I thought, right, my rabbit now needs to be protected. Forbidden Lance put in a lot of work. People went Torrential, Dark Hole, Mirror Force, you name it, they tried everything, and as soon as I dropped Lance, oh dear, they could not do anything. They just sat there like, what? Like, yup. They hated everything they did. They just like, why, I've just wasted my Torrential, my Mirror Force. They couldn't do anything. The only thing they could do was warning, and sometimes people thought, yeah, I'm going to warning cards like that. So they did, but Forbidden Lance is a staple card in Dino Rabbit. Then of course, staples, of course, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, Book of Moon, which of course is a shiny, Heavy Storm, Pot of Avarice, which is boss. This card helps out so much. Sometimes my graveyard was full of stuff that I didn't need, so I needed to draw more cards, so I've literally put a lot more cards back in. It helped with things like Sabersaurus and Cabasaurs going back to the deck, so if I had a rabbit in hand I could go off. So it really did put in some work. And of course Mind Control. Mind Control was an absolute best tech that I stuck in this deck. I could really annoy the opponent. I used to take their Utopia, go into Utopia Ray, or take one of their monsters when I had just one Cabasaur that didn't do anything, and overlay into a My Stroke or go into number 39 Utopia. This card really did help and it annoyed the opponent like a bitch. Right, now we go on to the trap cards. Triple Compulse. This card is absolutely brilliant. It's so brilliant to chain. And I just love this card. It just stopped things like Red Eyes, Darkness Metal Dragon, Dragonfly, Wind Up Carriers and Mighty. The Shining. This card put in so much work, and this is a triple compulse format. If you don't run compulse in your deck, you really need to put this in your deck because it does work. Then we had 2 Bottomless. This format you have to run Bottomless. It's only bad against Insectors because they don't really have big beat sticks over 1 and 5. But for things like Chaos Dragons, Heroes, Wind-Ups, you know, they go for their big boss plays, and you've got this boss face down, they're scrubbed. So you sit there, eyes on my big beast, fine, Bottomless. This card puts in so much work, and it's brilliant. 2 Warning, well, this card helps out because Bottomless cannot stop everything. If Bottomless could stop everything, it would be boss. Sometimes your opponent goes for a big play, you go Bottomless, then they go fine and go do another big play. Warning really does a lot more as well. It just helps out having 2 warnings. Mirror Force. Mirror Force is just brilliant, hands down. Everyone needs to run a Mirror Force. And only 1 Torrential. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to go to me, this is a double Torrential format. Yes, it is. And yes, double Torrential Tribute is good. But not in Dino Rabbit. I'll explain why. If you run 2 TTs in Dino Rabbit, if you've got a big beat stick, say like Luggy is on the field, you don't really want to go Torrential because you lose your monster just to get rid of one of their beat sticks. There are so many ways out of that than to use this, and that was the most annoying thing about it. So I really couldn't use 2 Torrential Tributes because some of the time when I draw Torrential Tribute, I needed to use it, and sometimes it was just a dead draw, and I didn't really need any dead draws in my deck. Right, now we go on to the extra deck. 3 of my favourite card, Evozar Lagia. Everyone knows what it does. It's a Solemn Judgment on legs. Negates absolutely everything. Summons, spells and traps. That's all you need to know. And it's a 24 beat stick. If you open up first turn with Rabbit and go off, this is the best card to go for. Your opponent can't summon, they can't activate a spell or a trap. They will try and bait out Lagia as they always do. But of course, sometimes they won't. They want to save their big boss cards till later on in the game. Evozar Dorka, especially against things like Wind-Ups, Insectors, and of course Chaos Dragons. This card really did help out against Chaos Dragons and Insectors. Not so much Wind-Ups because as soon as they go off and you really can't summon anything. But this card put in some hard work and it just is boss. Okay, its attack points are quite weak, but of course the attack points are not too bad. What it makes up in its effect is kick ass. Then we run 2 number 39 Utopias. I barely made 1, but having a second one in the deck was good. Because if you took one of your opponent's monsters and you only had 1 on the field, you could make another one, and then for 4 turns you could stall. Levier the Sea Dragon. This card helped out so much, bringing back my rabbit and then going off. This put in so much work. A lot of the time the opponent really couldn't stop this card being summoned and activate its effect, so I was really happy. And of course Wind Up Zen Mains. Zen Mains was alright, I used it a few times, it was good. Not saying it was bad, really good. Sometimes the opponent would just be annoyed and then some like 3 beat sticks and blast over it, but most of the time they didn't. Again, especially against Insector player, he was going off like summon this, summon that, do this, do that. And then when it comes to it, yeah, okay, fine. I negate the destruction. Okay, so the enemy blowing up your lot of a dragonfly there. He did not like it. This card put in some work as well. Or sometimes people used to go smashing ground or compulse to it. But this was just like a backup plan, really. Then we had one Utopia Ray. This card really did come in handy. A lot of the times the opponent did not like this card being summoned. Most of the time I didn't use its effect at all, because I had more life points, but it really did put in so much work. You rob their Utopia, and then you overlay for this card, and they're just like, oh, what? So they're down a monster, and you got a 25 beat stick. Then of course, one number 17 Leviathan Dragon. This card come in handy quite a lot. Exceed into this, bump it up to 2-5, first turn, oh dear, they can't really run over that. This card was so many outs to a lot of problems I had, and the opponent took a few turns just to get rid of this one card. And of course I ran one Miserythm. I summoned this twice. Its effect is really good because when it attacks you can double its attack up to 3k, which is really good. Most of the time the opponent went basically annoyingly bottomless as soon as it was summoned, torrential, or when I attacked Mirror Force. It was annoying, but at least I got this card out. And of course the last extra deck card was my stroke. It's not your stroke, it's mine. This is the Book of Moon. Brilliant card. I summoned this once. Scapegoat used this against me and it was irritating. This card really does put in a lot of hard work and it really is good. So if you have my strokes, you want to take them in your side deck. And last of all but least, we go on to the extra deck. The extra deck's pretty simple, but it works. 2 Private Plant, of course that's against E-Heroes, because it just puts in hard work. You take control of their beat sticks and start poning their asses. Absolutely brilliant. Electric Virus. This was good against especially things like dragons and of course machines. I didn't go against any machine decks, but of course it was brilliant against Chaos Dragons. It just pwned their asses. They hated this card. Take control of your RDMD, attack, attack, attack. They hated that. You take control of their beat sticks, pwn their asses with it. And it's just basically just ditching it to the graveyard just to take control of their monster. Not really much of a cost at all. 2 Thunder King. This card screwed over E-Heroes like a boss. They can't activate E-Cool, Reinforcements of the Army. They couldn't do anything. Even Stratos' effect is null and void. This card put in so much hard work. And I'm just so glad I picked it in my side deck. The extra effect veiler, as I said, 3 in the deck was too much, but having one in the side deck really come in handy against the wind up match. Now 2 creature swap. A lot of people are going to say, why on earth am I running creature swap? Well, sometimes the rabbit was dead. People tried to veiler it, fiendish chain it, do some stupid things to it. So I thought, okay, I need a way out of this because they do stupid things. So I thought, creature swap. So I summoned my rescue out a few times. People went veiler, they went fiendish chain. I'm like, okay, I activate creature swap. Take control of their monster, they took mine, and I pwned over my own monster, and they took damage. I was like, yeah, take that, bitches. So this format, creature swap, is a good tech. Then of course, 2 Smashing Ground. This come in handy against any cards at all, any beat sticks I couldn't get over Smashing Ground, put in the work. Bye bye goes their big monsters, and they couldn't do really much about it. 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors. This was handy against Insectors a lot. As soon as Dragonfly was summoned, it couldn't do shit. The Insector player was like, oh, I can't do anything. So, yep, you're screwed. Can't do anything. He couldn't even destroy this card. And this was especially good against Chaos Dragons. As soon as they summoned that RDMD, that was it. They couldn't do anything with the effect. They couldn't go off. And at the end of the duel, I looked at the opponent's hand, and he had things beating in his hand. I mean, he pwned my arse eventually when he got rid of Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. But he had a bad hand. A really bad hand. And then he just top decked and went off. I was like, oh dear. But Shadow Imprisoning Mirror is good. Then of course, Light Imprisoning Mirror. Now everyone was like, yes, this good. This is really good against Heretics. No, it's not. this card really didn't do much at all in the side deck. It was just there, really. I mean, you didn't go really against a lot of light decks. Okay, Heretics is light, but really Heretics do get around this. At the moment, you don't see much hype about Heretics, but Heretics are good, and these two are not always good against Heretics. They always find a way around it, so I may actually take these out for something different. But of course, that is what I took to the WCQ. Now, I hope you actually liked it. You know, please rate and subscribe and tell me exactly what you think. What would you have done if you took this to the WCQ? What would you have changed? If you changed anything. And what, of course, would be your side deck choices? And your main choices for the deck. So, as I said, please rate and subscribe. This is Mr. Sasuke Dragon signing out. And remember, only real men use Watapon.